Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to The Chosen Chronicles. FTW's hottest podcast and its host Connell Gardner is about to take you behind the scenes of the FTW's biggest stars. Get ready, listeners, because here he is, FTW's chosen one seed PG himself, Connell Gardner. 3, 2, 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 5th ever episode of The Chosen Chronicles. Today, my guest is one that everybody should have expected by now. I think most people thought that he would have been on by now, but it's just been one of them. It's been one of them things with contract and whatever else trying to get him on. He was a runner-up in the inaugural Royal Rumble, winner of the first ever FCW Elimination Chamber, former 24/7 champion. He is the host of A Flash of Hollywood, two-time tag team champion in WPA, WTPL, first ever Grand Slam champion, former AEW, NXT, WWE, former commissioner. He's the current PWMF Alpha champion, and I'll say it, he was my first pick for the first ever FCW draft. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today is Robert Haywood, known to you as Hollywood Haywood. Rob, nice of you to join me.
Hey, how are you doing today, Connell?
I'm not doing too bad. Thank you very much for joining me. At the time of recording this is your birthday, so I happy birthday from everybody here at The Chosen Chronicles, and thank you very much for taking time out of your day to join us.
Oh, thank you for having me, and thank you for the birthday wishes.
Anytime. So, how have you been keeping? How's your birthday been so far? We'll just start off with a wee bit of normal talk.
Well, it's been an interesting one. I start off the morning watching my two little children, my two little girls, and our new puppy. And the wife came home early from work, and so now I'm just kind of relaxing.
Well, that's the best way. You sort of get that birthday to relax, and especially, I said in the introduction that we've had a hard time trying to schedule this due to both our schedules being so busy with you having the new puppy and me just in the middle of moving houses and whatever else. It's been an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, definitely. But I'm glad that I was able to make it here on the show with you.
Oh yeah, definitely. It was one that I really wanted to get done, because ever since I came here, and I didn't mention this in the introduction, probably should have. You've been one of the guys that, especially when I've done my first promo or my first two promos, you definitely sort of came in and you were one of the first people, if not the first, to sort of message me and be like, "Oh, look, I'm Robert. Nice to meet you. Welcome to the FTW. This is the way we do things. If you need any help, come to me." And I think that was very, it was appreciated.
Yeah, man. Well, the first, I try to notice anybody that is trying to make their way in any organization I've been in for a while, and there's something special about you that I noticed early on. So I definitely wanted to reach out to you and let you know that what you were doing was good stuff. And that way, I feel like if you reach out to somebody and you talk to them and you give them a pat on the back, it motivates them to want to do more. And I think that's why we've gotten to where you are one of the biggest stars in FTW. Is because you keep putting out good quality content, brother.
Oh yes, you see, when they come knocking, I answer the door. When they think they've got all the answers, I change the questions.
That's right. And no matter who you work with, that program is going to be elevated, and that's something that I try to strive for when I'm working with somebody. I want, whether, sometimes it does not matter about winning or losing sometimes in this game. At the end of the day, like for me, I just want to entertain people, like I know, I think that's what you want to do too, is I mean, yeah, we all want to win, but at the end of the day, if I make one person laugh, one person angry, one person smile or chuckle, or one person do anything, to me, that I've done my job, because at the end of the day, I just want to entertain people. And I'm never going to be a professional wrestler. Never going to be able to entertain anybody like that. I missed that boat 19 years ago. But I can entertain people through this and get a tremendous amount of self-medication. Like it's a great way to help with, when I'm feeling down, I can put on the sunshades and become Hollywood Haywood, and everything is right in the world, except for Byron or Trey. But other than that, so.
Yeah, it's like I'm the exact same. It's one of them ones where I have probably one of the worst win-loss records in the history of FTW since I started, but I don't care, and I never will care. It doesn't care who I'm against. If I put out that promo that everybody texts me about, or it gets mentioned, being like, "Holy shit, CPG's been, he's been turning heads," and I did it. I think I did it that much at the start where that whole UK Championship thing needed to be brought in, and I didn't know anything about it, which was. Byron surprised me that day, and I remember you saying to me, you should do a promo today, or you should do something, and then Byron hopped on and gave me the UK belt, which I was very surprised at. But yeah, it's all about entertaining.
Yep. That's what I mean. That I do that. I do it for entertaining, and I do it to help myself. It's a good therapy for me. Like I said, Hollywood Haywood doesn't have the same kind of day that Robert Haywood has. You know what I mean? So, although I will say this season's been a challenge as I've become a face. It's a lot easier to feel better in real life about yourself when you're a heel and you can come on and be an asshole, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, like I love you brought me onto that, because on the episode that will be released tomorrow, at 6, I think it's at 8 o'clock my time, so roughly should be about 3 o'clock with you guys. Anyone on Eastern time. With Ravencroft, we talked about that exact thing, saying how this, with the whole 7S profile and all that sort of stuff, that people like me and you have had to go from probably the biggest heels in the company to the biggest faces, and we sort of transitioned really quickly to the point where I think it even took me and you by shock.
Right.
And it's been very, very hard for us.
Some of that can be credited to the great heel work of people like Byron and Ravencroft, and I mean those guys are so good at being bad but giving off the image like we're the bad guys, that if you're not halfway paying attention, you actually might think that they are in fact telling the truth.
Yeah,
but it's all a story, so it's really for the audience to decide anyway.
Exactly. It's one of them ones where we have to let the FTW universe decide whether they want to be on the Chosen One and Haywood side, or if they want to be on the 7S project side. And I think all of us have done a very good job of trying to keep that balance, where we know that if this was shown on weekly TV, that half the fans would be going 7S, half the fans would be going to us, or even have
definitely.
Like a 60-40.
They probably would. Now, I will tell you, being a heel in prediction wrestling, you don't have to worry about are you getting over, because like you're just being a heel. It's like you're being bad. But when you're being a face and there's not an actual like crowd, like we're performing in front of the other competitors. You know what I mean? So like the biggest compliment I've gotten as trying to be a face was, you seemed vulnerable today. And that was the biggest compliment that I've gotten, because we don't have a crowd cheering, clapping and
shouting our names.
Yeah. So I think we transitioned well. But without that crowd, I will tell you though, being a heel, much more fun.
Oh yeah, 100%. Because you can say and do whatever the hell you want, and
right.
you can enjoy yourself more, because you don't have to think. I know myself,
right.
when I'm being a face, I have to think of every word coming out of my mouth.
Yes.
I have to think about what I'm doing, what I'm moving, what the actual topic is. But when I'm a heel, I could literally go out and name every member of the FTW roster and just tell them to go fuck themselves.
Yes.
And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just that easy. It's just that simple.
Yeah. And honestly, being a heel for Hollywood Haywood's much easier, because that over the top persona is just more, it plays more into the heel side. But so I went to a lot of links to learn how to try to be a face. Like right now I'm dealing with I'm not just, the big storyline in FTW is 7S right now, but there's a bunch of other little storylines. You kind of have to think of it as like if any of the people out there watch the DC superhero shows. So like every episode, there's like a plot and there's like a conflict and they wrap it up in that episode. But over the season, there's an overlying bigger conflict, if you get what I'm saying.
Yep.
And so I'm also involved with a storyline with my nephew, which I think really shows my face side, where, I mean, that kid's beat me up in the story about 30 times, and I've yet to touch him because he's my nephew and I love him. You get what I'm saying? And
yeah,
and heel Hollywood would have already taken care of that. So
heel Hollywood would have destroyed Trevor Shane, but
on the same token, face Trevor Shane would you know what I'm saying, would not have been what he is right now. Like, that transition needed to happen in order to elevate him on the FTW roster. Do you get what I'm saying? So
yeah,
and that's what I'm all about. Like, I want to take guys and elevate them, even if even if I'm losing. Like, I just think that enough people watch what I do, that if I can get in a program with you and you can give me something back, like you were great at it. You gave me something back when you were first starting. You gave me something back. If somebody gives me something back, I think we can elevate any story to where people care about it. You know what I mean? So that's my goal.
Yeah, we'll bring that in. You said earlier on about how it's a lot harder to play the Hollywood Haywood character or gimmick if he's a face. But bring us back to the very, very start of Hollywood Haywood. How did he come around? What was the inspiration behind it, or was there any sort of superstars currently? Because I think Haywood's more of a Miz type character.
Right. Yes. Okay. So I have a theory, if you will. So I think any heel, whether it be professional wrestling, prediction wrestling, I think any modern day heel is taking certain aspects of other heels. I mean, I don't think anyone is truly original unless you're, what is his name, Dan Housen or whatever, Ring of Honor or whatever, Dan House. I forget his name, but what I'm getting at is it's you are actually, so the Hollywood Haywood character, a lot of people think that I'm taking from Hollywood Hulk Hogan. They get that misconception.
Yeah.
And I think if you really listen to me, minus the time I went All America, and that would be just normal Hulk Hogan. I went All America on you, and that was more for fun, just to, get a laugh out of people.
To spice it up a wee bit.
Right. Hogan is not an inspiration to my character whatsoever. I mean, at all, as a heel, especially. When I first started, I was one of the very first people in our circle. This is way before even the FTW days. But a lot of the core group of players from FTW came from another place. And there was a time where we just did predictions. No one talked. No one talked at all. There was no storylines. It was just predictions. And it was around the time that AEW and Jericho won the AEW title. And I've never been a huge Jericho fan, but I liked his run in Japan. I liked his run with the List. I liked his run in AEW. And so originally, before Haywood, the heel character, before the Hollywood was added, had a lot of inspiration from Chris Jericho, had a lot of inspiration from Ric Flair, and had a lot of inspiration from The Miz. And now, as I've morphed it to the Hollywood Haywood character as a heel, it's a lot of the Miz, over the top Miz with a little bit of The Rock, if you want to know the truth, is what it is, with an extension of just myself as well. I'm pretty over the top in real life as well.
And it's apparent in when we started to see, Joe, when you started doing the video promos when I came around. Recently, we've seen you do with the LEDs up behind you, the flashing lights, the music on, whether it's your TV or a device beside you. And when you started doing that, it was the Miz. It was the awesome and the camera clicking and whatever else. And I went, I can't remember who I said it to, but I was like, that's his inspiration, because we can see in the Haywood character that it's that cocky, arrogant son of a bitch where I don't care what you think of me. I know I'm the best.
Right. And that's how I feel as Hollywood Haywood, whether my record reflects it or not. You know, but
That's the best thing about prediction.
That's the character side. You know what I mean? The real side of me very much cares what people think. You know what I'm saying? Very much cares if people are happy with what I'm doing or you know, like it really much doubts if he's one of the best, you know. And so to turn into that character is it becomes, it, like I said, it becomes like a therapy, you know. So, but one thing I will tell you, Robert Haywood the person and Hollywood Haywood the character are not too far. It's just amplified 1,000%.
And again, that's what, there's just a reoccurring trend. It went from the Pinnacle to Tyson Holly to Dave the Beast Smith. We've all, and Ravencroft as well, which you'll find out tomorrow. We've all said the same thing, saying that no matter where we got our character from, it's the person that either we would want to be, or it's us times 10, because we know we can't get away with being that over the top in real life, or we can't do that. So the minute we put the sunglasses on, or the minute we hit start live, we just go to that Connell Gardner, Robert Haywood times 50, and we just do what we'd love to do in real life.
And for me, some of it's method acting. Like, you know, sometimes I get to that an hour before I cut it live, you know. But I tell you, there's not a bigger rush. You mentioned hitting that live button. There's not. Now, you can't do all the bells and whistles. You know, we've seen these guys come in with the BWO come in and do all these bells and whistles, and I love what they're doing. And you'll notice I'm starting to incorporate some bells and whistles. You've started to incorporate some bells and whistles, and that's the next evolution of what we're doing, you know, in my opinion. But there is not a bigger rush than hitting that live button and knowing that whatever you say, that's it. It's not pre-written, you know, you're live. You know, there's no bigger rush than that. That's the biggest high I think you can get doing this game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think one of the best things about it is the minute you hit that button and say it was me and you in a feud, and I see your name pop up and be like, Robert Haywood is watching. And that just gives me that extra being like, I know he's there. I know he's sitting ready. He's on my every word. And I'm just ready there to stick that dagger into your heart and just let you know that, you know, I'm not pissing about here.
Right. And I'm gonna tell you too, the thing I wish we'd see more people do. Me and you went heads up one time. And when we went heads up, that's something you don't see a lot. People going heads up face to face, you know. And you just hold on one second if you could, Connell.
Yes, no worries.
And you know, I think if more people would go face to face in their promos, because that is an interaction you see in professional wrestling that we don't get to see. A lot of times what we're seeing is I cut something, 3 days go by, somebody responds. You know, maybe only a day goes by, maybe 10 minutes go by. But I think there's two elements I'd like to see, you know, people do, and I'm trying to encourage. The thing like we did where we're together. We're like, there's no script, we're talking. But you have to have a good partner because they have to know when to pause and let you talk. Because that's how a good face-to-face confrontation is done in real wrestling. And the other thing I'd like to see, and we saw it, and I know it's hard because of where geographical differences, but we saw, and this, to me, this made it even better. First off, it was funny as hell. But Victor DeVello and Dudu Pooperman did a promo together, like in the same room. You know what I mean? And that to me is like a backstage locker room interaction promo that FTW really had never seen before. And I would love to see more of that. I understand it's hard because of the geographical aspects of it, but man, that not only was it good and funny, but it brought a level of realism to the league. So
Yeah, and I've said before that I'd love to be able to fly over or you guys come here and have a meetup, because it's one of them things that if we can do this amount of good shit over Zoom on Facebook without even having met each other, what could we do if we were in the same room?
Oh, I know. And there's talks of people wanting to do cinematic matches, and things of that nature. Now, I don't know if my 39-year-old broken back ass could really pull one off, but I'd love to do a cinematic match with somebody. It's been talked about. We saw Blaze versus Blaze cinematic match. He took on himself. That was really, really good, really entertaining. But I'd like to see two guys have a cinematic match that are in the league, and I hope maybe we can evolve into that. So I'm always looking, and I know you are too. We've talked about this before. How can you raise the bar higher? And that's what FTW is really all about. It's like, how can we raise the bar higher than it already is? Do you get what I'm saying? Like, how can we go above what people expect?
And that's the thing. Me and you try and watch as much as we can. So we're watching everything, and we're seeing Victor Davella post out them when it was the triple threat beast, and he's mocking Brandon and he's mocking Rob, and he's doing himself and he's doing all these little voices, and Brandon comes out and does the same. Sometimes you need to have that element of funny in there, and I think especially with the Filipino beast, that over the last few while, that's what he needed to do. And every time I watch a promo from him, he's just raising the bar. Brandon as well. I don't know what his name is now because of the beast match, but
you didn't see, because Brandon, he dropped a great heat. It's so imagine a microphone coming down like with Kennedy, and he's Mr. Clement.
I saw it advertised. I didn't get to watch it yet, but
that's his newest
he's
promo.
fantastic.
Him and Victor are actually going to team up next week to take on the Beast and Alpha, from what I understand. So that should be interesting. I'm going to tell you. So there's rooms. You mentioned the comedy of like Brandon and Victor, and there's rooms for all types. You're a very serious character. Okay. I think I'm a little over the top character, very serious, but over the top, like people legit could be afraid of you if they didn't know you were acting. You know what I'm saying? But like, there's room for everything in FTW and prediction sports. Like, there are people, and this is no lie. Victor Davella is my brother-in-law in real life. People message me if he doesn't video promo for a while, and they're like, "Can you get Victor to do something?" Because it's hilarious. Like, they're like, it's hilarious. And it is. It is. And I think you need that. You need originality. You need, different style, characters to make this thing work. And man, I just appreciate somebody like Victor that comes out there and thinks of, let's put the faces on popsicle sticks and talk, and let's wear a mask. And I'm a luchador 300-pound guy from the Philippines, like, how funny is that? You know what I'm saying?
And it's one of them ones that, like, how the fuck do you come up with stuff like that?
Like, I don't know, but it's creative as hell, and it makes you wonder. And he's not the only one. There's so many other ones that are so creative. It makes you wonder what we could do under the right microscope. Do you get what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. So
there's so many talented people. When I first started doing this a long time ago, before FTW, you had a few talented people. Byron and his other admins have put together a roster of so many talented people that I don't even feel like I'm like, hitting the top of the mark. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like I gotta, like, how can I outdo myself next time and not just make a total,
Yeah. And that's the thing. When we first came in, I came in around, I can't remember now, but I think it was around January time, just before.
I first noticed you around January or February. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I first came in, and I don't mean this like no disrespect to everybody, there was maybe a few of us doing video promos. But then every time I was doing one, You did one. Adam did one. So then so I always thought that the next promo I was gonna do, I'm gonna be the best. I don't give a shit. See now, I don't even try and worry about being the best in the group anymore because I know it's impossible. I just try and beat my last one.
Right.
And it's
that's what
crazy.
you do. And it's hard, man. You put that on yourself, and it's hard, man. I've done stuff before and I've cut it off, and I'm like, I instantly call somebody and I'm like, watch that. I'm like, that's not my best work. Like, and I've done stuff that I thought was terrible that people loved,
Especially see most of my stuff, right? Before the 7S stuff. Some of the promos I was doing just to put content out, just to keep my face relevant. And then I was getting texts from like you, Adam, Byron, being like, oh, that was fantastic, keep it up. And I was like, wait, no. I was like, there's no way you're talking about the same one I've just done.
Right. And I look at all the people who've elevated their game, especially in the recent months. Ravencroft, incredible writer. Probably the best writer in FTW, hands down. I mean, I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. Best writer in FTW. When I write something, I send it to Ravencroft and ask him if he thinks it's good. Ravencroft makes me want to be a better writer.
Oh yeah, 100%. Okay? The creativity of him is unbelievable.
Right. So, and writing is such a powerful tool that I never utilized in other organizations before, because writing allows us to have those scenarios that we can't do because we're not face to face. And Ravencroft taught me that. And he motivates me to want to be a better writer. Like I think I motivate him to be want to talk more. He told me I made him want to talk more. Pinnacle, me and you made him want to talk more. And those guys are fantastic at talking. So now, not only are they better at writing, they're as good at talking too.
And that's the thing, because before, me and you were looking at it being like, okay, them guys are good writers, so we'll let them write, and we'll bring something different. We'll talk.
Right.
And now we're trying to write, and it's them guys talking, and they're slapping us on both ends.
I know. We created I created, and you created. So
we created our own worst enemies.
Yes, but they're great guys to work with. Pinnacle kicked my ass twice at the beginning of the season, and he kicked my ass good. But he was a pleasure to work with. The whole way.
And I'm going to find that out now.
Yes, I see you're working a program with him now. And the thing about the Pinnacle is he's so easygoing. And I'm going to tell anybody that's listening to this podcast, the biggest thing I'll stress, if you want to have a good, successful feud and you want to have something, not something complicated, you want to have something that runs maybe two or three, pay-per-views, or but time passes differently in prediction sports. So, you want to have something that runs maybe 6 weeks. To me, 6 weeks, you might hit 2 pay-per-views in 6 weeks. That's a good feud. Okay. So the thing I'll stress the most, you got to have communication. So you kind of want to get into these feuds with people that you get along with. You know what I'm saying? So you don't want to go out there and just shoot your mouth at somebody and you haven't warned them first. Like with me and the Pinnacle, I knew everything. I didn't know what he was going to say, but I knew it was his turn. You know what I'm saying? And then he'd be like, okay, you're up. And I'd be like, okay.
It was the same with me and you?
Yes, same exact way. And those are the best feuds. I see a lot of guys try to start feuds by just running their mouth. And sometimes that works. Sometimes you catch lightning in a bottle and it works. But that can get you in a lot of trouble too. So the thing I like to do is reach out to who I'm working with. Like right now, like I told you, I'm working with the Elite Society. Me and Money, who's the leader of that group, are in constant communication. You know what I mean? So like I know what he's going to do. Like these attacks, to peel back the curtain a little bit, these attacks I know are going to happen. You know what I'm saying? So, and I agree to them because one, it makes them look strong. Like I probably, since I hooked up with you, taken more beatings than physical beatings, than the law should allow for in the storyline. So.
And that transitions me perfectly. And I know the main point of this podcast was to get to know Rob instead of
Right.
Haywood or instead of Hollywood Haywood. But what did Tina actually think about that storyline?
The kidnapping storyline?
Yeah.
Well, to understand what Tina thought about that storyline, you have to understand the complicated relationship that is Hollywood Haywood, Robert Haywood, and Tina. No, I'm joking. That's a joke. No, she actually was all for it. She's very supportive of the theatrical side. You have to understand her kids were both really into the arts. Vince really into the arts before, when he was younger. My sister really into the arts. I graduated with honors for theater from my high school, really into the arts. So we're all very supportive of it. Now, she's very spiritual. So to make a long story short, there was only certain places we could go with how dark that
how
got.
dark and how deep we went. Yeah.
Right. Before she probably would have been like, no. But, she never played an on-screen character. As a matter of fact, we saw her on screen for the first time a couple of weeks ago, but she it's funny. She watches everything. She watches your promos. She watches my promos through Victor's Facebook, and she's very entertained by it. She doesn't want to play, but she's very entertained by it. She's upset right now because there's no Flash of Hollywood, because Flash is in the storyline on the run, and that was like one of the highlights of the week. And I'm not just saying that because I do that show. She just enjoyed watching it because she knew she would normally learn about one of the characters in FTW. And she thought it was entertaining the way our process was for that.
Yeah. So, and you know what, that we just keep transitioning perfectly, and I can't thank you enough for that. But a Flash of Hollywood has been. Do you want to say it? Do you want to do the intro?
The longest running, most talked about talk show in all of prediction sports.
So there you go. Do you know what I mean? It's the longest running, most talked about show in all of prediction sport.
Yeah, we
apart from the Chosen Chronicles, but
it's a different show. Now let me tell you, I love the Chosen Chronicles. The Chosen Chronicles will do more for FTW than a Flash of Hollywood ever will. And you heard that here first, folks, as Robert Haywood, not as Hollywood Haywood. Flash of Hollywood's meant to be entertaining. This is telling people what we do. Do you see what I'm saying? Telling people what we do. Here's the thing. You reel them in, and I'll keep them in with the Flash of Hollywood. How about that? But the Flash of Hollywood's interesting because I was in another organization with Flash. And we did a Flash of Hollywood, and it was a recap show. So the way that show worked was you had your weekly matches, okay? And the weekly matches, there was like we would actually say what happened in the matches. Like in FTW, people write their matches at the end.
Yeah.
We were going to all the competitors and saying, okay, what happened in your matches? We're going to do the Flash of Hollywood. And it was a smaller league at the time. And we would go through and we would go, okay, this happened in this match, this happened, and we would make it entertaining. That way, occasionally we would have a guest. I got to FTW and there's 80 competitors. I'm like, I can't recap 40 matches. That show will be 5 hours long. So it morphed into just an interview and news show. Is what it morphed into. And honestly, that is probably my favorite thing that I do in this. Besides working behind the scenes with storylines and stuff, that's probably my favorite thing I do. You know what I mean?
And that's what I can say with this now is like I used to love watching it. Anytime your Ira posted a new episode, it was like I was straight on it. I was on it maybe a few times. At the start of the whole 7S debacle.
Right.
But especially with the Chosen Chronicles the last few weeks, trying to get it up and running, trying to get it done. I've enjoyed this a lot more than I have maybe a few storylines in the last couple of months because of how I get to know you guys. Because normally when me and you, or when me and you talk, when me and Alan talk, when you know what I mean, when any of us talk, it's always in character. We never actually get to find out the people behind the scenes and trying to getting to know Adam and talking about Adam's wrestling career, or well, like the wrestling career that never happened, unfortunately, but hopefully will soon, and different pieces like that. I don't know. It just feels so sort of satisfying when we go back in and then have a match, being like, well, now everybody is tuning into this, and I'm making that sort of culture for everybody. So
Right.
it always is. It's a lot more exciting going into the FCW now and having people talk more about talk about this and the character at the same time.
Mm-hmm. It's nice to peel back the curtain. So
Yeah, and so
I
just let
think
everybody know.
for some people, sometimes they just look at the character, and they don't realize that there's somebody else back there. And some guys don't have huge characters. Some guys just play the game to play the game, and that's fine too. But I never want to just be defined by Hollywood Haywood. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's so
I
much
get that.
more to Robert Haywood than Hollywood Haywood. So,
And Connell Gardner is completely different than the chosen one. Like I'm not that. Obviously, I'm not that self-absorbed
well, I hope you're
douchebag.
not as violent.
I am
So,
Irish at the end of the day, so it's in the blood.
yeah. So,
But
but
no, don't
yeah,
worry. I'm
man.
not gonna make you a climbing frame.
So I will say this: the Flash of Hollywood after the brand split will be back. Eventually, I'm going to get Flash off the run, and we'll be back in the saddle. We'll be looking to interview people, and that I'm gonna plug my own show if you don't mind. If
Work
you want
away.
to be on the Flash of Hollywood, it does not matter who you are. We will talk to you, and we will do our best. This is out of character to get you over if you want to be noticed. Like that's what the Flash of Hollywood is for. So come on the Flash of Hollywood, and we can talk about anything you want to talk about in character. It's all unscripted too, so
Good luck. I've been there.
so
No, I joke. You've mentioned the draft. To sort of try and bring us to a close, we'll talk about the draft and then. But we're the big dogs in FTW UK. It's me and you.
and Tyson.
Tyson Holly's going to help us. What's your aspirations? What are we going to make different for FTW UK that FTW US, for a lack of a better term, doesn't have?
Well, the first thing I'll say we have that they don't have is a young man named Havoc, Thomas Metcalf, who we need to get on this show right here, right now, who at the end of the day, I think we're taking the UK title, which has essentially been what I would call, and I know people don't like these terms, so don't nail me to the stake. That has not been the main title in FTW. It is going to be the main title in FTW UK. So Havoc, Thomas Metcalf, he first off part of the group Trinity, but he's coming straight to UK, and we don't know if we're getting the other two guys. So we're going to see him stand on his own. Now, I've been in another organization with him, and I already know what that kid is capable of. Shout out too, he also had a little one recently. But here's the thing. That's what we're going to have right out of the gate that they don't have. Is my goal is to elevate that FTW UK title, improve that it is just as important as the FTW championship that will be on the other brand.
100%. And I'm going to be biased. I was the inaugural FTW UK champ. I was the one that Byron had placed it on. And at the start, I'm gonna admit it, the chosen one maybe was a wee bit too cocky when he had the belt, turned a blind eye to Havoc, and I've apologized multiple times to Havoc for that because he is one heck of a competitor. But yeah, having my belt back on my brand will be the most fantastic thing about this brand splitting. We'll be giving guys and girls a chance that Byron overlooked or Trey overlooked, and the whole 7S project sort of just wanted to throw away because they were afraid they would get overruled.
That's the storyline side of things. But
Oh yeah.
let's take the real side of things here. You have a roster with on any given week has between 70 and 90 people predicting, okay? It's hard to make a name for yourself, especially with some of the personalities we have.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You take that and you divide it in half. And now you have guys that are going to get shots, going to get opportunities. And that's what I want to do. And this is no storyline. This is just basic numbers, okay? So you take guys, that maybe right now, maybe they're a little overwhelmed. Maybe they want to be the next chosen one. Maybe, the guy that goes one morning and just does a live video out of nowhere and somebody notices it. But with 70 to 90 people, it's so hard. You got to hope somebody that cares sees it. You know what I mean? But within the smaller, when you take those rosters, you divide them in half. And me, you, and Tyson, we're looking at the guys that are on our roster, and all of a sudden we see one try. We see one throw out that video, and that video's hot. That video's fire. And we're like, oh, that guy's got potential. Let's message him right now. Let's talk to him. Let's coach him. Let's see what we can do. And then if they're happening to put the victories in with it too, that's what I want to do. That I want to make by the time this test brand split is over. Okay. I want to have elevated at least 10 to 15 people that would not have been elevated without it.
Exactly. And we've looked, and the likes of Havoc, who, in my opinion, came up out of nowhere in FTW when he first joined. I came up out of nowhere in FTW. You yourself in recent or in other leagues came up out of nowhere. Tyson Holly with his video promos. We all have to start somewhere.
Right.
And being the guy from a different country compared to the rest of us, being probably one of the only active UK competitors at the start, it is scary. It is very daunting to come into a group of people you don't know.
It is. And you have to put yourself out there. And then even if you do, what if there's so many people? I mean, have you ever went on Facebook and stuff's just jumbled out of order? And like, it's not even anybody's fault. Do you know what I'm saying? Like and you just get on there and you don't notice it. But what I want to do is I want to have our roster and know and be very communicative. And I'm not saying that's not happening now. It is happening now. There's all sorts of people that communicate together, but I just want to have our roster and say, this guy's got potential. Let's work with him behind the scenes in real life, not, and see what he can do on the show, and then it's up to them. It's up to them after that, but I want to make sure that we're reaching out to people and going, hey, there's an opportunity here. Not to cliche the WWE. There's a ring here. Why don't you grab it? Let's see, you have potential. You know what I'm saying? And I just know if I didn't know anybody in FTW and I came in and there was 90 people, I'd be like, this is a little overwhelming. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah, 100%. And so as we've said, FTW UK is going to be that chance for people to step up. And out of character, like Byron will try his best to try and make more of us as well and try and make as many characters as he can.
Oh, yeah, he's great at doing it, too. I mean, there's probably no better recruiter in the business.
Oh, no.
I mean,
Byron,
just look for
Byron
when you
could
came
be working
in and how
mainstream.
much bigger it is.
Byron could be working mainstream for the amount of unbelievable talent that he's brought here.
He's a genius. For as much as we like to talk about him.
Hold up. Let me make sure I got that. Hold up. Let me make sure I got that on record. Haywood calls Byron a genius. Yep, it's recorded. I'm happy enough.
Which, if you notice, if I lose at Money in the Bank to him, I will have to come out and say that again. But I'll do it in character this time, so it'll be so much more fun. But the man is a genius. And it's not just him. There's a whole team in FTW that is doing a phenomenal job of recruiting. Recruiting, we get new members every single day. I would argue that not a lot of prediction leagues can say that.
Oh no. We went from next to none till we had maybe about 15, 16 roughly active. And then when we all came in and it blew up, there's as you said, there's between 70 and 90 active members every week.
Yeah, and that doesn't happen unless you're doing something right. So yeah, he's
Exactly.
a genius. He's a genius. His team is a genius. The people he surrounds himself with are phenomenal. And so when you say, what are we going to do different in FTW UK? We're not going to reinvent the wheel. But when you have a smaller group, and it'll grow too because he'll keep recruiting, but we'll start off with a smaller group, and we are going to go look for those diamonds in the rough. The diamonds in the rough that are kind of on the fence of whether or not they want to put themselves out there or not, whether it be with a written promo, a verbal promo, but they got the prediction stuff down, and my goal is to create as many superstars. That way, when we go to, say, Survivor Series, where we're inner battling and stuff like that, the FTW UK brand dominates the FTW US brand. So, and that is a little bit in character, but but I will say this, I'm very excited about working with you and Tyson and Byron and his team as well, in this venture. So,
yeah, and that's, yous have obviously had a wee bit of experience in admin with different groups and whatever before, but this is probably going to be one of my first ventures from the Chosen One character into Chosen One behind the scenes, O'Connell Gardner behind the scenes. So I'm looking forward to sort of learning from you and Byron and from Adam and whoever else that I'm with, whoever I'm working with, to try and not only give people the opportunities that you guys give me, but learn the ropes about how potentially I could make FTW UK better. And that's definitely a goal of ours. So to wrap us up, we've been blabbering on for God knows how long because we both love to talk. I definitely need to get you on for a part 2 because there's so much stuff we just didn't get to cover today.
Okay, definitely.
But it'll probably be at a later date, but I cannot wait. I have one more request of you, if you don't mind. Okay. But this one's got to be in character. At the end of every FTW broadcast, we are meant to say a certain word. I cannot be bothered learning it because it's a load of bullshit made by 7S.
Mm-hmm.
I have my own version of that,
mm-hmm.
in which I say at the end of every promo, at the end of every Chosen Chronicles podcast, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to get in trouble probably from Spotify or Apple or something by saying it at some point, but I'll let that come to it. At the end, I need you to say it for me to end this up.
Make no bones about it, Chosen One. At the end of the day, there's only one thing that we can do. There's only one thing we can say, and I pray to everyone that they just realize that this is the only right statement to say, and that is, make Trey go fuck himself.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Hollywood Haywood, the Robert Haywood version of the Chosen Chronicles. It has been a fantastic episode. Rob, thank you very much for joining me.
Welcome, sir.
But ladies and gentlemen, as Rob said, for one last time, for all those listening in the back, for the 13 of us or 14 of us watching every episode, may Trey go fuck himself. This Chosen One is out.